you all hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. So I've been invited to give a little personal testimony, or more likely talk on ableism in the church. And first of all, I just kind of want to get an idea how many people have heard of the word ableism before, just by raise of hand. So I want to say like 4 people, maybe 5 people. Okay, perfect. And so I always like to start my talks kind of shifting what people's perception of disability might be, or what issues of ableism can affect on people with disabilities. And so I want to start off by reading a little passage from the Bible. So it's Exodus, and it's the story of Moses. So I'm gonna start reading now. It says, Moses asked the Lord, "Suppose everyone refuses to listen to my message, and no one believes that you really appeared to me." The Lord answered, "What's that in your hand?" "A walking stick," Moses replied. "Throw it down," the Lord commanded. So Moses threw the stick on the ground. It immediately turned into a snake, and Moses jumped back. "Pick it up by the tail," the Lord told him. And when Moses did this, the snake turned back into a walking stick. "Do this," the Lord said, "and the Israelites will believe that you have seen me, the God who was worshipped by their ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Moses replied, "I have never been a good speaker. I wasn't one before you spoke to me, and I'm not one now. I am slow at speaking, and I can never think of what to say." But the Lord answered, "Who makes people able to speak, or makes them deaf or unable to speak? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Don't you know that I am the one who does these things? Now go. When you speak, I will be with you and give you the words to say." Moses begged, "Lord, please send someone else to do it." The Lord became angry with Moses and said, "What about your brother Aaron, the Levite? I know he is a good speaker. He is already on his way here to visit you and will be happy to see you again. Aaron will speak to the people for you, and you will be, like me, telling Aaron what to say. I will be with both of you as you speak, and I will tell each of you what to do. Now take this walking stick and use it to perform miracles." So the reason why I chose this passage was, one, because it wasn't until possibly maybe a month or 2 ago that I realized that Moses is actually disabled. And we don't talk about that in the Bible, but we do have people with disabilities in the Bible. There's several of them, but Moses was one that stood out to me the most. I was actually reading about it in the kids' Bible when I was preparing for a lesson, and I realized, there's disability in the Bible and we don't talk about it. But what I wanted to kind of get out of this passage was kind of like the views that people have of disability. And so right now, a lot of what I see is that people have this view that disability needs to be fixed, or it's something that needs to be cured or healed, and that's kind of where the focus is. And so when we think about things like ableism, it is basically saying if you don't fall within what we consider as normal, anything outside of that is seen as like broken or faulty. And so I do also want to talk a little bit about how the church has hurt the disabled community, because I can count the number of times that, I've been about my business like down on the street, and I'll be approached by people saying like, I just want to pray for you real quick, or they like stop me and they'll start a prayer. And there was once where because I use a wheelchair sometimes, so I was in my wheelchair and someone approached me asking me, can I pray for you real quick? And so I accepted. But then after their prayer, they kind of asked me if I can like get up and start walking, as if, as if they were performing some kind of miracle. And so I want to bring it back to the passage, because as you all can see in the passage, God has the power to cure disability or to heal it, but he didn't in Moses' case. Instead, even with his disability, he encouraged Moses to go out and still perform and save the Egyptians and whatnot. So like it's still like, even with the disability, like he still had those gifts to offer. And so it was a way to like stray away from the whole notion of curing and healing. And instead, also what stood out to me was that he told Moses to keep his walking stick, because he's going to use it as a tool. So he's using it as a tool to perform these miracles, so that others can also have that faith. And so I really resonate a lot with that, because I use my crutch. So you would consider it a walking stick. And with that, I feel like it's something that helps me be able to advocate and to bring about that awareness into the community. And so that's why that passage really resonated with me. And so with that, I want to talk about kind of how First Church gets it right, and maybe ways that we can also improve upon. So how we get it right. The fact that we don't have a building is a really big one, because if you all, I'm sure we've all entered a building before, a church building, and we've noticed that the infrastructure tends to be a lot older. Maybe like the altar area, there's always like stairs to get up into it, stairs to get into the entrance, or if there is an accessible route, it tends to be like all the way in the back somewhere. So like it's this extra effort to do that. But the fact that we don't have that, we're all kind of in flat terrain. We don't really have any barriers to people coming in. That's a really big sign of like welcoming people that I really appreciate. Also, the fact that we live stream every service. There are people with chronic illnesses that might not be able to make it out every day, or need to stay home for whatever reason. So the fact that we have it live streamed, I think that's a way that provides a lot of great accessibility for people. And so with that, ways we can improve upon. So if we were to have like people who are deaf or hard of hearing, would they have access to hearing what I'm saying now, or to understand what's happening? And so I think with that, there's a lot of great apps nowadays that provide live transcripts to people that you'll just download on your phone, and with the microphone it'll hear what you're saying and it'll transcribe all of the words live. And so I think that's a really great resource for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. The fact that we have sensory friendly areas, or like just quiet areas. So sometimes I know like loud music or loud noises can be triggering for some people. So we do have like the kids area, or we have this area out on this side where, if people need to take a breather, we have that available. Seating, I think with seating, if we were to have like wheelchairs or any mobility device, kind of leaving some room so that people are free to sit in like on those sides, and they're not just kind of pushed off to the side a little bit. So I think that would be great. And then consciousness. So it's not just about remembering that people with disabilities exist, but also kind of being conscious that, it's not someone that's a part of the disabled community and is within your congregation might don't just remember that they're there, but remember that everybody has gifts and talents that they can bring into the congregation, not despite their disability, but with their disability, like in the case of Moses. And so yeah, that's kind of like a run through of what I wanted to do and introduce. Obviously, a lot of these points could all be classes or courses we can all take. This is just a very broad, general introduction of disability that I wanted to bring light to, but I really appreciate that Mandy and everybody gave me a chance to speak, because this is actually the first time I've spoken about ableism in the church, and I think that it doesn't happen very often, but I think it's a very important conversation for us to have, so that we do truly build an inclusive community for all. With that, that leaves out a little bit of other intersecting identities of the disabled experience, but like I said, that can be like a whole course, like college course on like what that means. But with that, I think that's all I have for you all today, and thank you for allowing me to share.